What's good, Magic fans? Welcome to Penny for Your Thoughts, episode 12. I'm joined once again with my usual two comrades. Mr. Paul Bacon, how are you, sir?
Good evening. I'm very well, thanks. How's yourself, guys?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you, mate. Mr. Michael Clark,
Evening, Geraint.
how's it going?
All right, mate. I'm very well.
Yeah, you're not sulking over the Liverpool result?
Just a little bit. I was throwing things around the living room this afternoon, watching that, but there we go. Magic
Can I just say, as a Leeds fan, I'm sulking over the Liverpool result as well. Doesn't help us when we still have a point.
It's one of those days,
isn't it?
But if the Magic win tonight, we'll all be happy. So
Absolutely,
you've got it. We're joined today with a very special guest, Mr. Daniel Durham, who joins us from Groveland in Orlando, an ex-Magic employee. So how are you, Daniel?
I'm excellent. How are you guys doing?
Excellent. Thank you, mate. Great to have you on.
Great to be on.
Oh, you're welcome. So without further ado, we will kick it off with a short little roundup of what's happened in the world of the Orlando Magic in the last 7 days. Luckily, we had one injury in the last week. That was to James Ennis with a sore toe. He just missed last Friday's game with the Atlanta Hawks. We've not made any new signings or trades. And we've got a basketball game to talk about for the first time in a couple of months. So that's all very exciting. So without further ado, we'll go over to that game. So preseason game number 1 versus the Atlanta Hawks at Phillips Arena. The Magic took it 116 to 112. We used 15 players, missing Terrence Ross, James Ennis, as mentioned, and the two casualties from earlier in the preseason, I suppose, in Al-Farouq Aminu and Mo Bamba. Magic shot 45%, 28% from 3, 69% at the line, 15 turnovers, and some decent figures in terms of the defense with 8 blocks and 10 steals. We were led by Nik Vucevic with 18 and 11 in 25 minutes. Aaron Gordon, 12 and 6 in a limited 16 minutes, and a couple of key contributions from Evan Fournier, 13, and our new signing, Dwayne Bacon, who was, I'd say, was very impressive. In short minutes, he scored 14 points, looked pretty decent, and we had a good run out for our rookies, Cole Anthony and Chuma Okeke. How did you see the game, Paul?
For me, I was very happy. I thought the starting unit played really, really well. Dwayne Bacon coming in, he took on the mantle. He's been saying how much he's been looking forward to playing again under Steve Clifford. That he's quite confident his game suits Steve Clifford's game. And you looked at how he came in. He came in with confidence. He shot well. Was it first 5 shots he actually made? Took 5 for 5 to start with. Finished on 6 of 9. But he was great. He came in and played well. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I thought Evan Fournier played really well. He even played some defence, which that was a bit of a shock. But let's not get carried away. It's the first preseason game. It was all about the process. The getting some understanding for the new guys who, 3 weeks since since draft, so it's not a lot of time for the guys to acclimatise coming into the club. So it was good to see them play well. We came away with no new injuries. We took the win, which was nice. We saw some good rotations. We saw some good energy. Aaron Gordon looked good returning. Cole Anthony, in his debut, I read in his post-game interview that he wasn't happy with his own performance. Like we say, it's 3 weeks since he was drafted. He's come in and he made 7 points, 3 assists. I thought as the game went on, he grew into it. And a lot of the players that he was actually playing with over that period of time, he's not going to play an awful lot with, because we saw a lot of the two-way and the 10-day contract guys. There were, what was it, 5 debuts, 6 debuts? But overall, I'm happy. I thought that we played well. But we also have to remember it has been 9 months since the Hawks have played basketball, and they have brought a whole host of players in. So let's see where we go again tonight. But overall, first night out, I was very happy.
Excellent. Mikey?
Yeah, I'm going to echo a lot of what Paul had to say, really. If you look at the starters, is really balanced and scoring. They're all in double digits. Vooch, wasn't he? He had his solid game, 18 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists. At times, it felt like every time he touched the ball, he was going to score, didn't it? I thought he had a really good game. Paul's already mentioned Dwayne Bacon. I was going to say Paul Bacon then.
I'm sorry, did I miss my debut?
Yeah, you did great.
But he I think he surprised all of us by starting to begin with. But let's be honest, it's like Paul said, it's game number 1. It's all about getting their conditioning up, getting those reps up for everybody, and just getting back into the rhythm of playing games again. Tonight's we're probably going to see the minutes ramp up a little bit for a few players. I thought Aaron Gordon was possibly the best player on the floor at times. I love his new Afro man. Are we going to call him?
Big hair.
But I thought he was outstanding when he was playing. Cole Anthony, I thought, looked a little bit nervous and was maybe trying a little bit too hard when he first come on. But as the game went on, he grew into it. Chuma Akiki as well, forced a few shots to begin with, but he looked like he could be a useful role player. Again, I think I text Paul this during the game, or after when we were watching it the following day. You think of how good we looked, and against a team that everybody's expecting to be a level above us this year. All right, they haven't played for 9 months, but we're missing Terrence Ross, we're missing Aminu, we're missing Bamba. All right, we're not going to have Isaac this season either, but there's more depth to come with this team, and I think that's going to be a positive this season. But yeah, first run out of the season, I don't think you can argue with the effort and the performance that they put in.
No, good. And you just mentioned there about Vucevic. We had to listen to the Atlanta Hawks commentators, didn't we? Unfortunately, because he was picked up by Fox Sports Southeast, was it? Southwest? Mm-hmm. And they were saying, every time they play Nikola Vucevic, he just goes on a tear against them. So let's just hope he continues to do that every time we play Atlanta. Daniel, what did you think, mate?
I agree with a lot of the comments that were made by both Mikey and Paul in terms of how he played. We do have to take it with a grain of salt because it is preseason. So that's always, not exactly the real life thing. I was really interested to see how Markelle and how Michael Carter-Williams played now that the point guard rotation has changed. So seeing them both come out and play really well, that kind of made me feel a little bit better about that situation, because realistically, we're not going to have DJ out there, and he's going to be missed. So it was interesting to see them playing well. I agree with a lot of what they said about Cole. I think one of the problems in the NBA is that college is so different from the real thing that a lot of these players can take almost a year before they even get comfortable out there playing, let alone being able to produce and do well for the team. But it'd be interesting to see his development. And then the one thing they didn't touch on is Kem Birch actually came out and played really well too. So shout out to Kem Birch for almost doing a double-double himself. Not to mention Vucevic, of course, bringing in his steady double point figures on a couple stats there. So really happy overall with the game. Hope to see more of it.
Kem had that nice crossover, didn't he? Where everybody got up off the bench, and was it an and one? I think it was.
He's a beast. I'm excited to see more of him.
Yeah.
I was also interested to see. Sorry, G. I was also interested. Just that moment, we had a short period of time where we got to see Markelle and Cole Anthony on the floor together. Hopefully, it can develop into something along the lines of a Toronto situation where you've got Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet able to function together as a double-pronged, effective backcourt, and hopefully we can get something like that. So it was good to see those have just a short period of time together.
It was, absolutely. I was just about to say exactly the same. So well done on jumping on that. So the Magic play tonight against the Hawks in game two, sorry. And then we host 2 more preseason games against the Charlotte Hornets on the 18th and 20th at the Amway Center before opening the season on the 23rd against the Miami Heat. So what's next on my agenda? So we're going to talk a little bit about our guest, Mr. Daniel Durham, friend of the show, I'll say. Every time we seem to go to Orlando, we meet up, we have a few beers, we go to watch the games. We even meet up on days where the games aren't on, don't we, Dan?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you worked at the team store. So tell us when you started at the team store.
So I think it was around, I'm always questioning this, but I think it's around 2007. What I can recall is that we were selling Grant Hill jerseys for $5 because everyone was mad at him. That was a big thing. We were selling his replicas for $5 a piece to get rid of them, and nobody wanted them. And I know we got knocked out by either the Pistons that year, or it might have been our dreaded rival Toronto at the time. So one of the two. And that was the big deal at the time. But I was only barely aware of basketball when I actually went and joined the team to work there. So.
Yeah, of course, I got to know you through your previous boss, Lewis Hagerman. And he said, Daniel will take care of you. And we've just got to know each other, haven't we? And, we're best of friends now, talking over the internet. Absolutely. And everything. So, and we managed to take a trip, didn't we, Dan, to Miami back in 2015 in April. So myself and my wife, Amy, met up with Daniel and Rihanna, and they kindly drove us to Miami. We played them second or third last game of the season, if I recall rightly.
It was the last game, of the regular season for them. It was their last. Yeah,
but the interesting story was, so we were there. We were in the back of the lower bowl. So, you wave at Dante, they all see you there. So we sit down, and there's a couple of college guys, aren't there? Magic fans as well, in and around the same area as us. So we think that's okay. So we can be a bit noisy.
Yep.
So at the time, I think the Magic were winning and results weren't going the way of the Heat. So they were going to be eliminated from the playoffs there and then for the first time in a long time, because this was the first season after LeBron had left. So we started a chant, didn't we, Dan? No more playoffs. Do you remember?
I would say Geraint started that chant, but I joined in because, I had a beer and I was into it and I was fired up. And then a guy, a couple rows from court did not appreciate that so much. And he actually stood up, and I remember he took his hat off and he threw it down and he went, "Don't you say that. Don't you dare say it." It was pretty hysterical.
I think he said, "I'll see you outside."
He wanted to meet us outside. Yeah.
There's about 8 of us, so we're all right.
We'll meet you there, man.
Did you see the angry little Welshman come out at him?
It got aggressive. Geraint was ready to go. He's like, "I'll meet you outside."
We lost the game in the end, but they got eliminated the same night. So, it was one of those games, wasn't it? Guys, have you got any questions for Dan?
Dan, if I can, what was your first actual live game that you went to?
So my first game that I actually went to was one that I worked. I had started with the team, and I didn't really know that much about basketball. Lewis actually, I thought he was going to get rid of me after my first day there because we were stocking jerseys, and we kept hanging them. And I kept saying, "Well, who's this Howard guy? Is Howard like a big deal? Why is everyone? We have so many of his jersey." And he looked at me like I had 2 heads. But one day we were working together, and he was saying that they were shorthanded over at what was Amway Arena. And he was like, "We're shorthanded at the arena. Do you want to work a game?" And I was like, "I've never been to a basketball game. That'd be a good time. Why not?" So drove out there for the first time ever. And they stuck me in a booth outside of the game, this little trailer. And he was like, "Here you go. Here's a bag full of money." They didn't have registers out there, so I was literally working out of a bag full of money. And he's like, "Just sell what you can here and let me know if you need change." And half the stuff wasn't priced. So I was just making it up as I went. So we had foam fingers there, the little number 1 finger. And I was like, "How much could that be?" It's made of foam, $5. So I sold a bunch of them at $5 a piece. And then I had these little stuffed figures. And I was like, $10. So later on, I go into the arena and I find out that foam fingers are $10, and I was selling them for half price outside of the arena. I was like, please don't fire me. I didn't know there was no price limit. I don't know. So I think a lot of people that day got some really good deals, and I'm sure when they went into the arena, they were like, wow, I could have gotten a better deal outside.
That's brilliant, mate. That's brilliant. Who were they playing?
I do not know. I honestly do not remember. I wish I could tell you, but I don't remember.
I understand as well from speaking to Grant that opening night's a big thing for you. You and Rihanna, you have a date night at opening night if you can.
We do. So, yeah. So I worked for the Magic for a total of 9 years, and the only like ticket request that I would make every year was for us to do the home opener. Our first official date together, prior to our marriage, was going to a Magic game. I kind of wanted to show her my world, so we went to Bento downtown because she loves Chinese food. Bento, shout out to Bento, and then we went over to Amway Center, and she watched her first Magic game. And it's one of the few places on earth that I feel like a celebrity because I know so many people just from working there for so long, and people recognize me like, hey, Dan, the ushers and security. And you get to feel, it's a little cliche, but you feel like a little bit of a family when you work a lot of seasons together, not only with my retail people, but with everyone there. So getting to walk around and be kind of a big shot in front of this girl that I was dating was an awesome experience. And, it worked out since we're married now. So.
That's
Cool
cool.
first date. Cool first date, mate. I like it.
Yeah. Have you got anything, Michael?
Yeah. Have you had any celebrities in whilst you've been working? And have you got any crazy stories that you can share?
Yeah, I think that we've had quite a few. In terms of celebrities, I think the biggest celebrity that I met was the twins from Harry Potter. So the Harry Potter twins came in for a game. They're actually big Magic fans, which is kind of cool. But they came into the shop to buy, and I know this is going on the internet, so hopefully they won't hate me for this, but one of them bought a jacket from the men's side and one of them bought a jacket from the women's side. But we didn't want to tell him that because he liked it so much. So whichever one of the Phelps twins bought that, just, it's a women's jacket. That's why it zips up. That's fine. But I think the craziest experience working the All-Star weekend almost destroyed me. We were working 14-hour days. So it was just every day, 14 hours from the beginning, stocking up, and then working through the game, staying after. Those All-Star games were probably the craziest. And then working finals, definitely working the finals run. I've never had anything quite like that experience. Somebody rubbed money on my face when we clinched the finals. It just wanted that clinched gear so bad. So I think making it to finals and then All-Star were probably our craziest work days there, for sure.
Cool. And any player stories? You must have had the players come into the store.
We did. So we had 3 players working there. Tobias Harris worked with me directly over at Jersey Station. Tobias, super nice guy. The player that came in most often, this is going to be kind of a weird one, but Kyle O'Quinn. Kyle O'Quinn was always in the team shop. He's a super nice guy, hard worker. I never met Aaron, but his sister would come into the team shop all the time, and she's super sweet. She's almost like a twin of him in a way. So they have a lot of facial features in common. So I was like, hey, I know you. And then Alfred Payton came in. Alfred is way taller in person. I think when you see him on TV and you kind of look in and he kind of looks like Jameer Nelson height, and then you see him physically and you're like, this man is 6'4". This is a tall, not even counting the hair.
He hasn't got it anymore.
No, I know. I miss it. That's where all his power was.
Yeah. And you filmed part of a commercial at the team store, didn't you?
Yes, my big claim to fame is that you can see my back in one of the Black Friday commercials for the team shop. I got to work with Stuff all day on that. And if you don't know Stuff, you should. And second of all, he's a riot. He's so fun to be around. He's really funny dragon. I almost said guy. He's a funny dragon to be around. So keep the mystique alive.
Cool. Who's your favorite all-time? I mean, you touched upon a couple of players from the 12, 13, 14 seasons there. Favorite current player, favorite all-time player?
I had to think about this a lot. So I think that my favorite current player is Michael Carter Williams. And I know that's kind of a left field pick, But Michael Carter Williams to me is who, if I had the ability to play basketball, I would hope that that's who I would play like. That man leaves everything out on that court every time he comes out. And I worried a little bit this season now that he has a contract and he's not, proving himself to get on the team, that he would lose that edge. And if that first game is any indication of how he's going to play this season, I want to keep him forever, because he'll go out there and get his nose broken just to win the game. He'll jump for those 50-50 balls. I think we need a lot more of that on the team. So anyone that's going to put it out there every night as hard as they can, I'll take him. So Michael Carter Williams, current favorite player.
Awesome. That's cool. That's cool. You've seen a lot of jerseys then. If you worked there 9 years, you've seen the throwbacks, you've seen all sorts, city jerseys. What's your favorite one that stands out?
That's a really hard question, because I think a lot of the fun of working in the team shop is that we get to see these things early. So we get these catalogs every season, which has the jerseys and the different things that are going to come next season. And they all have these, do not take any photos, top secret kind of stuff. And just seeing what's coming down the pike is always super interesting. I think my favorite right now, and this might not be a popular answer, is those orange jerseys from last season. I kind of missed that they didn't come back this season and they changed it up, but those ones are some of my favorite. I don't think they do enough risk taking with the jerseys, not counting the sleeve jersey debacle, which, the less said the better. But I think that those jerseys are probably one of my favorite. And then not one that we wore, but the Christmas Day jerseys from a couple years ago that have like the cursive font. I love those ones too. I wish we would have worn those, but we didn't play Christmas that season. So
I think you've already given the answer. What's your least favorite jersey?
Yeah, I'm really not partial to the sleeve jerseys. We were stuck with those for a while. A lot of people kind of bristled at them. I think those would probably fall into my bottom jerseys that we've actually worn.
Yeah, your favorite one, Dan? We've got a split here. Paul likes them, and Michael doesn't.
Okay, that's fair. To each their own.
Yeah, I don't mind them. I think
I absolutely love the last season's City jersey. I think it looks really clean and classy. I really do like it. Hey, Mikey, Daniel, we mentioned the silver jersey. Didn't you say something about the fit of it when you bought one? You found the fit different.
Oh, what, the sleeve jerseys? Yeah, I bought it in I used to wear, I think, because they were Adidas back then, weren't they? So I had a small size jersey, and I normally fit in a medium or a large, and even the small was like enormous on me. It's like, I think Vooch had worn it the game before. It was that big. But yeah, I actually liked the jersey. I think if they had done it without the sleeves, I didn't mind the color concept as much with those gray sleeve ones. But yeah, I don't think anybody really liked the sleeves. I remember, was it LeBron in the finals and he was ripping them off, wasn't he? I don't think anyone was a fan, but yeah, those were enormous on me, even a small, and I'm 6'1", so.
Dan, how do you see the? We've talked about how we, think the team will pan out this year. What's your thoughts on this season's roster? How we'll do?
I think that we do have a good roster of people. Like I said, I don't think that Anthony is going to be a big contributor yet. I think it'll be more interesting to see what he provides next season once he has a season under his belt and he's comfortable. I think we're going back to playoffs. I know that's kind of a bold statement after one game, but I think that we can definitely get back to playoffs. How far we go is really going to depend on injuries and a few other factors for sure. But I think that we have a strong team. I think we're going to miss DJ. I don't want to admit that, but I think we're going to miss DJ Augustine, that veteran presence this season. I'm excited to see what Okiki can do, since he's kind of an unusual situation, being out and then coming back in. So it'll be interesting to see how he adapts in his kind of first season, so to speak. And then just to see how our other guys have adapted and stuff, and all the new people, of course. So I'm excited for the season, but I'm excited for every season. So.
Yeah, no, cool. Interesting that you just mentioned Okiki then. Didn't get a chance just to mention about him in the Hawks game. He reminds me of a Trevor Ariza type player. Long, lengthy, good defensively, put the ball on the floor. And, if he turns out to be like a Trevor Ariza, he'll do very well. So, Right, moving on. So, Eastern Conference preview. Let's go to the bottom of the Eastern Conference, shall we say? Whilst we look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Detroit Pistons, and the New York Knicks. Now, Paul's written a very comprehensive preview of the Eastern Conference, so he has all the stats. So he is the man for this job. So I'll just hand you over to Paul whilst he breaks down those three rosters.
Okay, we'll take it alphabetically. I'll start with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Okay, coming in, finishing 15th in the Eastern Conference last year on a 19-46 season, 25th in the offensive ratings and 29th in the defensive rating. It's fair to say that they really did not have a good season. They have drafted at number 5 a guy called Isaac Okoro. I've probably pronounced that wrong as normal.
Very good, Paul.
Oh, I've got it right. I'm sure that David Seal will correct us at some point, and now I'll have got it completely wrong. Who he is seen as a very, very good prospect. They have lost a couple of players in Jordan Bell. Alfonso McKinney is perhaps their most notable, but there's really very little that they've had move out. What they have brought in is interesting. They've picked up Thon Maker, JaVale McGee, who's obviously just come in from the Lakers. But overall, you don't look at them and feel that they're going to make any great moves. The projected starting lineup, according to ESPN, is Darius Garland, Colin Sexton. They're actually putting Okoro as coming straight in, along with Kevin Love and Andre Drummond. They re-signed Dellavedova. They've got Larry Nance Jr., as I've already said. They've brought in JaVale McGee. Player I really do like, guy Cedi Osman. I think he is one of those guys who always puts that effort in. Picked up Thon Maker, as we say, and they've also got Dante Exum. Don't get me wrong, they're not going to be a team that you fear, but they are going to surprise some teams on a night. They're not going to turn up and not compete. They've got some quality there. It's just whether they have a blend that can move them further up from 15th. And I'm sorry, I'm not convinced. No, I'm not convinced at all.
Daniel. How do you see it, guys, about the Cavs? Do you see much like what Paul just said?
I think I have to agree. I think that the Cavs have a problem that they don't have an identity right now. They have a lot of young talent. They have people that, can be good or will be good in the future on this team or another. But there's nothing that really defines them as a team. I'd be hard pressed to say who's their offensive threat or who should we worry about on a given night. I mean, anyone could pop off and have a good game, but there's nothing there that really identifies that team. So I think until they have a franchise piece or until they have a team of really good producers, I think they're kind of a team with no identity, which is why they fall where they do in the rankings and in their production per night.
Yeah, they're really relying on Colin Sexton and Porter to take a jump, aren't they, really? And I think they're still too young to really they've got role players around them, haven't they, like Drummond and Kevin Love. I think Kevin Love's wanted out since LeBron left, hasn't he? So I don't really see them. I don't see them doing a lot in the East this year. Garrett's already said, I think they're going to be one of those teams that can surprise somebody if you're having an off night. If you're not going to come in prepared and ready to play hard, I think they can catch you out. But yeah, they're not going to do a lot in the East this year.
No, I mean, if you're the Cavs, you've got players like, you say, Drummond and Kevin Love. You'd look at them to try and mentor and nurture the younger talent. But, from what Mike just said, their grumblings from Kevin Love wanting out, it's not really the best place to have him. I don't know how long's left on his contract. Is he on a couple of years left?
I think it's 2 years off the top of my head.
Yeah, and it's a lot of money. So you might look to see them moving him next year, but probably not this year.
Then to Detroit. I'm not sure even God knows what Detroit have done in the offseason. They have brought in Jahlil Okafor. Josh Jackson, Mason Plumlee, Jeremy Grant, Delon Wright, Wayne Ellington, Rodney Magruder. You look at it, it's just lots of big players, lots of tall guys. I think at centre they are going to be well and truly overloaded.
Can they play 5 centres at the same time?
I mean, you look at they are coming off of, again, they finished 13th in the East, coming off a season of 20 and 46, 21st in offensive rating, 22nd in defensive rating. However, that figure is probably skewed by the fact that it was mid-season. They were wholesaling moving people out. And in this off season, they've moved away from Langston Galloway, John Henson, Brandon Knight, Thon Maker, Jordan Bone has gone, obviously, to us, Luke Kennard, amongst a whole load of other names. Tony Snell's in there. They've then drafted 4 guys, Killian Hayes at 7, Isaiah Stewart at 16, Sadiq Bey at 19, and then here we go, Saban Lee at 38. That's a whole lot of readjusting to make. You're not going to have any chemistry to start with, so I would be very surprised if they hit the ground running. Projected starting lineup: Killian Hayes, Delon Wright, Jeremy Grant, Blake Griffin, and Mason Plumlee. Yes, in Derrick Rose, fantastic backup point guard. But honestly, you'd look and think, no, I'm sorry. It's hard to pick between them and the Cavs for who is actually going to come bottom again. But I do believe, again, in the same way as I said about the Cavs, they will surprise a team on night. And these are the games that we, as the Magic, don't turn up at sometimes, almost assume that we've got a win coming, and we get stung in the backside by these sorts of games.
Dan?
I disagree with a little bit about the bottom feeding. I think we have to note that Blake Griffin does exist, although he only played 18 games last season. If he comes back even a shadow of his former self, and that's a big if, they could have a offensive powerhouse there that draws a lot of attention. Without him on the court, I don't think their chances are very good of going anywhere. But if Blake Griffin is producing and he's actually there for more than 18 games, I think they have a chance of moving up a little bit from last season. Touching on Derrick Rose a little bit, I think Derrick Rose, without the pressure from his previous teams, is actually doing very well now. And I think he's settling in that backup point guard position really well. That's not going to win you a lot of games unless they're close, but I think it's interesting to see, without the pressure on him to be the iconic player that he was, he actually does a lot better. And I wonder how much of the pressure got to him prior to the injuries getting to him, just trying to be the center of attention for a team. So interesting to watch.
Just to come back, if I can, on Blake Griffin, I saw the Pistons with Blake a couple of seasons back, and his partnership with Drummond was really impressive to watch. They beat us on that night. The thing I'm not convinced at is that Mason Plumlee is as good a foil for Blake as Andre Drummond, and that's where I think that you could see them take a little bit of a backward step. But yeah, I do get your point exactly, Daniel, that Blake's there and he's still a good player.
Looking at the roster, I think they're a team in transition, aren't they? I don't think they're bad enough to finish it. I don't think they're bad enough to finish last in the East, especially when you've got Griffin, Derrick Rose, Jeremy Grant, players like that in there. But when you've got 4 draft picks coming in this season, Blake Griffin's only got 1 more year after this year. Derrick Rose is expiring. I'm looking at them as a sell-in team, especially around the deadline. I think the Magic are a good example of a team this off season, where there's so much uncertainty around what the league's going to look like this year. Teams are being a lot more cautious, and I think that's what the Pistons are doing. They're in that in-between stage where they're thinking, well, let's stay competitive. Let's bring in some young players. Let's try and develop them and bring them in. But if we get a good offer for a Blake Griffin or a Derrick Rose, and we can gather some more draft picks or some more assets or another another young player to go in with that group, that's when I can see them changing. They're not going to take a jump. I don't think they're not better than the other teams we've spoken about the last few weeks. But yeah, I don't think they're one of the worst teams in the East, but they're not going to make a lot of noise.
I agree with everything you said. I think they're a bit better than the worst of, like you said. The only thing I don't get is the direction that the front office has taken. You draft 3 rookies. You've got a player like Griffin, Rose, etc. You sell off a trade off, or move a couple of others, but then you throw a lot of money at all these centers. I don't get what that achieves. It locks you in to salary cap difficulties. You want to be getting players like what we have. Dwayne Bacon, he's on a minimum contract. They're expendable. You throw money at Mason Plumlee. I don't know how much he's on. You might have the figure there, Paul. But
no, I don't. I don't have that.
He's on 8 million.
8 million. Okay, that's not too bad, I suppose. But, if you throw in 12, 13, 14 million at various players over a couple of seasons, I don't know if they're 1-year contracts or not, but you're restricting yourself cap-wise. So your best bet is to tear it all down and almost, have a bit of a fire sale, draft 3 rookies and build upon them. So I question their direction a little bit. But
apart from Jeremy Grant, a lot of their veterans that they've got on the team are expiring next season. So the only players that they've really got locked up long term are a lot of the draft picks. So again, that's why I think they're a team in transition, because they've got those young players. They probably want to add more to it. And then Blake Griffin's not going to be a long-term fit there, and Derrick Rose isn't either, is he?
No. And the New York Knicks, Paul.
Right, to the Knicks. Yeah, it's hard to know exactly what their front office have done as well. Let's start with last season. They finished 12th in the East, 21-45. In some ways, I feel that they actually outperformed what you were expecting of them. So there's clearly a spirit. I mean, we saw that when they played us on a couple of nights. 28th in the offensive rating, 23rd in defensive rating. According to ESPN, their projected starting lineup features some point guard called Elfrid Payton, RJ Barrett, their draft pick, who they took at number 8, Obi Toppin, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson. It's not the worst, but it's not the best by any stretch of the imagination. Where they have a little bit of presence is coming off the bench. If Frank Ntilikina, however you pronounce his name, why do I put myself in these positions? Every week. Yeah, him. The French dude. If he can finally have some development that, you saw how he played in the for France in the World Cup. He had some good games. They've also got Alec Burks, who they've brought in. Nerlens Noel. Austin Rivers has joined. Stop laughing, Mikey. I did actually stumble over that one. I know how to say that one. Amari Spellman brought in. Kevin Knox. They've got as well as a backup. Dennis Smith Jr. At some point, everybody expects him to have a breakout season at some point, and it's just not happened yet. Interestingly, they've moved off. Mo Harkless has moved on. Taj Gibson, Wayne Ellington, Bobby Portis. So again, they've moved quite a few players out. Overall, I think they've probably improved. I think they've probably slightly improved. But again, in the same way as we've said about the other two, they are a team that is looking to develop, and I don't think some of these players that they have are a long-term fit. I think quite a few of them are on shorter-term contracts. People like Alfred.
Dan?
I think Paul's really astute in his observations there. I think that they are a team that got back more than they gave up this season with their changes. Alfred, and I don't mean to pick on a former Magic player here, but Alfred has two really big issues. One of them is that he's great at layups and bad when he shoots. Just numbers wise, if you look at it, it's not as good as it should have been. And although he's working to improve it a little bit each season, I'd like to see more improvement than I do. Back when he was on our team, I saw the difference between Aaron Gordon between seasons in terms of how well he was shooting and with Alfred, and just didn't seem like either the amount of work wasn't being put in or he wasn't getting those returns. And then he has the other big issue that plagues point guards that drives me nuts, and that he doesn't shoot free throws very well. And if you can't have your starting point guard in the game in a crisis situation, you have a big problem. I'm looking at you, Rondo. Yes. Rajon Rondo has one of the worst free throw percentages of any guard, and it drove me nuts when people would tout him. Yeah, he's a great point guard, but if you can't have him in for the last 2 minutes of a game, how good is that really? So those are my points. Also, Austin Rivers, I'm going to point this out. Great name for a mediocre player. And I know I'm going to upset some fans with that, but it's true. He's got a great name. He could be a better player to live up to that name. It's a Seth Curry situation.
I'm just going to say I think the Knicks are the worst team in the league. sorry, in the East. I'll put it that the worst team in the East. They're going to be another one of those teams where if you're having an off night and you're not prepared, they'll give you a run for your money. There's a lot of young players that are going to work hard. I worry about Tom Thibodeau. I think was made head coach in the summer. I worry about him with a lot of the young players. There's a lot of players that play hard. Obi Toppin looked really good in his debut the other night. I saw some highlights from the Knicks game. I think they played the Pistons. But yeah, the thing that puts the Cavs and who's the other team we talked about?
The Pistons.
The Pistons. You've got two really, really good players there that can lead the team in both teams. I don't really see that with the Knicks. They're just a mix of good role players and young players, and there isn't really there that you can say they're the standout leader of that team. I just think they're a bit of a mismatch. There's some good players in there. I like Mitchell Robinson. I think he's a good, solid center. Obi Toppin, I've already mentioned, had a really good game in his debut the other evening. RJ Barrett has got a lot of work to do. But yeah, I think they're going to finish last. I'm just going to leave it there before I upset anybody else.
Yeah, I got to agree with Mikey. Last or second, but last to the Cavaliers for me. I don't think there's a team out west that's worse than those two. So when it comes to the lottery night, I expect one of them to be getting one of the top picks. The New York, they're hoping that they're going to attract a key free agent. It's not happened for them, be it down to, management and owner of the Knicks. They're looking to strike out. They need to strike out with a good rookie, and they've just missed on their draft picks. My mate Mark's a big Knicks fan, and I get to wind him up all the time. It's brilliant, but you want to see New York have a good team. I know. You want to see New York have a good team. I don't mind the Knicks at all, and I hope they can turn it around at some point. But just not as good as us. So yeah, right. I think that brings the previews of the East to an end. So it's Paul's favourite part of the show now, I believe, Paul.
Oh, I wait all week for it.
So this week's question. So I'm going to let Daniel have a pick of these, okay? So what I'm looking for is the highest individual point scorer for the Magic in an individual game per season. So Daniel's got a choice first of 2019-20, 18-19, or 17-18. So I'll let you take a pick, Dan.
We'll go 17-18. Let's go with that.
17, 18. Right. So I have 4 performances on my sheet. Can you name the players and how many points they scored? So you can take a stab in the dark.
So, do you have a list of the roster from the 27-18 season?
I don't. There's not that much change.
Okay.
They're current players. They're current players.
All right. I will say Aaron Gordon was one of them. As for how many points, we'll go 25. That's probably low, but we'll go 25.
Oh, yeah, that's way too low.
Okay.
Have
We
another
got some good
stab at it.
performances there.
Higher.
We'll go 35. I'll go.
Keep going.
40
Wow.
something.
Okay, 44. That's my final answer.
Final answer. No, so the top performances from that season, Aaron Gordon and Nikola Vucevic both scored 41 in separate games against Brooklyn, one of which AG scored 41. We won 125-121. Vucevic's 41 came in a loss, 121-126. And the other 2 performances of note were AG, 40 points against Oklahoma in a win, and 39 against Miami in a loss. So you look at that and you think Aaron Gordon scored 41, 40, and 39.
That's incredible.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it was 3 years ago.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I want to
Yeah.
see it this season.
Me too.
Yeah, right. I'll go to Paul next. Do you want 2018-19 or 19-20?
Let's go 18-19.
Okay, I've got 3 performances, current players.
Okay. I would say Vooch is there. I would say
You're
Aaron
correct.
Gordon is there. And but I think the highest could well have been Evan on a night.
Right. So, Vucevic did top score for the team that season in 130-117 win against the Lakers. He scored 36. The other 2 performances of note were Terrence Ross with 35 and the next with 32. So, yeah.
Evan had a period
I
out,
know.
didn't he?
Yeah, Evans' highest was about 31 that season
31, yeah.
from going down the rabbit hole. So that leaves you, Mr. Clark. 2019-20, top 3 performances.
Vooch.
Is one,
Fournier.
is not one.
No? Okay.
No.
I'm going to go AG.
Is not one.
Oh, I'm doing well here, aren't I?
I am so happy somebody's finally done worse than me.
Let's go Fultz.
No, it's not Fultz.
No. Okay.
It's someone you've got a jersey of.
T. Ross.
It was Terrence Ross. Yeah.
Is there one more?
So it was Terrence Ross twice.
Okay.
Terrence Ross. So Vucevic scored 35 against the Bucks, as we know in the playoffs, the game 1 in the win. Terrence Ross scored 35 at Miami in a loss, and he also scored 33 against Minnesota. Was that the comeback win? Did we come back in that game? If I remember
That's
rightly?
what I said.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's this week's quiz rounded up. Thank you very much, Daniel, for being our guest. It's been real good fun talking to you.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm a big fan, and I was happy to be here. So thanks for having me on.
Good stuff. You're welcome back anytime. So thank you for listening. You're subscribing, you're liking us, and just keep viewing the pages. Until next week, go Magic.